So, let me see if I understand this right. Let me see if I got all this correct. Let me see. Now, like I said, now, there is no doubt whatsoever that, like I was saying, there is no doubt whatsoever that the MLP fan base can be divided when it comes to certain things. In fact, one thing that several members of the MLP fan base are known for, even in the Rift Cafe TF2 analysis community, is shipping characters. Whether it's just because of one appearance, because ship them, because they feel that it's cute to also ship them because they feel they have a lot in common, not identical in sense to the other is, or they just decide to ship certain characters with each other because they feel those characters work better with each other or work better off each other than anything else. I mean, why do you think we have so many Yuri ships in the city? Why do you think we have so many Dash AJ ships, or Dash Twy ships, or Starlight Twy, or Starlight Trixie? Heck, one of the more legitimate cases of a Yuri ship in the show is the secondary characters, the secondary characters, if you will, in Lyra and Bonbon. Probably the most acknowledgeable in that case. But they're not the only ones. Heck, depending on how you view DJ Pone 3, aka Vinyl Scratch, and Octavia Melody, you could say the same thing. But the point I'm getting at, sorry for the interruptions, but the point is, people are going to ship who they want to ship, and even though it's evidentially right in their eye, right in front of them, that this pairing, whether it's a Yuri lesbian pairing or not, or acknowledged as not as much or not, whether it's good or it isn't, or it's hinted at, fans are going to ship who they want to ship. And like I was saying, they'll ship sometimes characters with each other that may interact maybe once or twice in the series, and that's it. But because they feel they have so much chemistry that, hey, why not put them together as a couple? Even when the movie came out, people were like, hey, Tempest and Twilight, especially towards the end, have so much, potential, not just as friends, but as a pairing. Why not ship them? Heck, Mirror Magic, same way. People look at Sunset and Starlight and they're like, hey, there you go. And like I said, same with Starlight and Trixie. It's just because because the fact that you pair them up a lot, because they work off well with each other, it's pretty much a natural ship. But then there are those ships that have been teased since day one. And even though a lot of people will say there's reasonings for the ship not to occur, you ask yourself, then why is it every time there's an episode that centers around one, if not both these characters, why is it, what I'm saying is, ask yourself this, why is it anytime there is an episode that centers around one of these characters, the other somehow plays a role. They play a major role. Why is that? And why is it sometimes if it centers around both of them, why does it work so well? Well, with an episode upcoming in 2 weeks, an episode that a lot of people have probably already seen thanks to the leaks, one has to ask themselves, why question or deny it any further? I mean, I can understand the whole, well, he's a child, and this upcoming episode deals with him going through an adolescent phase. he's going through a change now. And then you got another episode later on. It's going to deal with possibly the same situation. Excuse me there. But it's going to deal with a similar, well, not a more similar situation, but more personal situation. And yet, in this upcoming episode, you have the other character involved as well, and she herself is dealing with a problem. And there's no doubt that later on down the line, you're going to have her involved in the other episode. And if that's not the case, you pretty much kind of had her be the instigator, despite if you want to think of that as, okay, that's a bit of teasing shit, because couples will do that to each other in fiction and in real life. The episode 2 weeks ago, the question is, why deny the fact that in a majority of the community's eyes, SpikexRarity exists, that being short for Rarity X Spike. I mean, this is a ship that still exists to this day. And despite all the efforts, people come out and say, well, this is why it would never work. And I, along with a lot of people, would legitimately agree with that. Got to look at it this way. This is a show that has proven on occasions, on multiple occasions, has proven that it will, without a shadow of a doubt, pander to the fans. It will legitimately pander to the fans and give the fans what they want. And it's not just the show either, it's also the people behind the show, that being DHX and mostly Hasbro. They will pander and give the fans what they want. Right, they will give them what they want if they feel there's a legitimate reasoning for it, or if there's enough evidence backing them up for something like this to be justified. And Rarity and Spike is one of those situations that, even though it doesn't feel like it should happen or even be continuously hinted at, it's something that I think legitimately this show enjoys to. I think legitimately the staff behind the show likes to tease. They like to utilize when the timing's right or when the story's right, because they know there's a fan base that will enjoy the dynamic between the two if the story got the right story for them. And in a sense, when you look at some of the stories that they've been involved in, from Secret of Excess, Inspiration Manifestation, there are several others. Those are two primary ones I can think of. Gauntlet of Fire is another one. Dragon Quest. The interactions that they have with each other, the fact that they will stand up and compliment the other when the story is necessary, or when the story calls for it, no matter how people might feel, it legitimately works. Now, I know some people will point out that the only reason Rarity truly cares for him is because of the fact that she knows and appreciates and accepts the fact that she is his first legitimate crush, that she is his very first true love, and that nothing, no matter what, can take that away. Nothing can break that. That's why she's always there for him in his time of need, standing up for him, defending him. That's why he's there for her, because he still has a fondness for her. He still has a love for her, and he's willing to stand up and he's willing to utilize that love, stand up for her, to help her out. But again, the constant argument people get is he's young. And Meltdown is just an example of, hey, he's going to have a change come over him, and that if he was older, he would have had this change a long time ago. That is true. That is true, but let's go back to Gauntlet of Fire. Okay, let's go back to Gauntlet of Fire. And heck, even this current season, go back to Gauntlet of Fire. Have a dragon that's probably around his same age range, just a little bit taller in height, not big tall, but just a tiny bit taller, and that's Ember. She's about probably the same age, just a bit more statuesque in a sense, but she's a small dragon. And G, she's the dragon lord right now, but wouldn't she still be considered a kid? Or is she considered as an adult? Let's take a look at another character, Smolder. You can debate what age Smolder is. But she's got wings, so technically is she still a kid, or is she an adult? Or is she a teen? I'm just saying. The point that I'm getting at, folks, the point is, as I've said before and others have said before, we don't legitimately know the ages of any of the characters as far as Friendship is Magic is concerned. We get hints here and there, but we don't have legitimate ages. I mean, Spike pretty much says in Secret of My Excess that his first that them celebrating his birthday the way they are, it's the first, true birthday he's had in Ponyville. So we don't know how many he's had before that. And the only reason may be the fact that he's been delayed in getting his wings and being more treated as an equal, a grown-up, or whatever you want to call it. It's because maybe the magic that Twilight used on him and the magic Celestial used on him to revert him back to a baby stage in the past when Twilight was trying to hatch the egg and stuff that he was in. One has to wonder if maybe the magic stunt the growth or stunt the acceleration. Like in other words, or not stunt, kind of slow down the traditional regular growth pattern for a dragon like Spike to go through. The thing is, no matter how you feel about it, fans even to this day are going to ship these two together. And now, with the upcoming episode in 2 weeks, and possibly one later down the line this year, fans are going to have more of a reason to ship these two. And I want you to think about this. If the creative staff, no matter whether they were led by Megan McCarthy, which technically they still are, or if they're led by Lauren Faust, or even led by someone like Nicole Dubach, you have to ask yourself, depending on who's the executive producer of the show, you have to ask yourself, if they didn't constantly tease this relationship, wouldn't they have had Rarity or maybe Spike end up with somebody already? Or at least acknowledge that, hey, there's something there between them and another character? When Ember came into play, what happened? They started shipping Ember and Spike. When you had certain other characters come into play for Rarity, what did they do? They shipped her with those characters. Heck, they ship her with some other characters she hasn't even had contact with. But you ask yourself, if they didn't want to take this seriously, they didn't treat this as somewhat being canon, this relationship, this SpikexRarity deal, they would have done something about it long ago. And it's like I said before, depending on who writes the episodes, you could tell that person either doesn't like the SpikexRarity deal, may tolerate it, or may be for it. And I think, honestly, the people that wrote Meltdown, the people that wrote Secret of My Excess, Gauntlet of Fire, Inspiration Manifestation, Dragon Quest, and several others that are similar in tone, those that wrote those episodes either tolerate and understand and tolerate the ship, or support it because of the fact that it's been something that's been going on since day one of the series. So now the question is going to be, the series having possibly one more season, will they make it happen? We have seen other episodes in the past several seasons, I should say, recently, where they've addressed certain situations, they've answered certain questions. Now the biggest question, in my opinion, one of the biggest, is Spike and Rarity. I've talked about it before, and I'll say it again. if season 9 is the last season, they either need to get off the pot and do something, or just finally address and come out and say, this is never going to happen because it never should have been hinted at. They need to do something. And if they are if Hasbro and is who they say they are, and PHX and the creative staff behind the show is who they are, and at times they will give the fans what they want, then honestly, I truly believe if they want to thank the fans, give the fans what they want somewhat in this season and in the next season, they find a way to either, again for the interruption, I was saying, like I said before, I believe that with the upcoming final ending of season 9 did make this official to some extent, but just acknowledge that, hey, it's not going to happen. Just acknowledge, do something that at least says, hey, there is something there, but they're just going to be friends because it might be a difference, what have you. But and I understand the whole, and I can understand maybe from a community, with the whole situation that means. It's, some might feel it's a little risky. Again, this is something that's been teased about since day one. Since, like I said, it's had several episodes sort of sounded. I mean, the fact that, they did an episode in season 2 while Lauren Faust was still on board. Still the executive person to go to. The fact that they did that episode. The fact that they did that episode. If basically, I think Voice of Reason put it best, the top 10 video. That's basically making SpikexRarity official. It's like, what more evidence do you need? And again, I think Megan McCarthy knows this. I think the whole creative staff knows this, and I believe they have to address this one way or another. Because like I said, you got episodes upcoming in 2 weeks that center around these two in a sense. But Rarity is involved because I think something happens with her as well. So you got all this going on. And again, you have to ask the question, if this isn't evidential, if there isn't some kind of acknowledgement by even the creative staff of this shipping, of this pairing somewhat being canon, then why is Rarity always involved? Ask yourself that. I mean, I understand, like I said earlier, some might counter that by saying the only reason she's always around Spike and helping him out and being there for him because she's acknowledging that she was his first crush, that she was his first true love, and she's not going to forget that. She's not going to let that go. Okay, fine. That's a valid argument. And if that's the case, even in real life, you acknowledge that. Perhaps, what I'm saying is that even in real life, even if you acknowledge that, you are allowed to go and look elsewhere. You're allowed to move on with your life. And like I said, they have had numerous opportunities for Rarity. Heck, fans have even, at times, showed that she's had numerous opportunities. They've had numerous opportunities to pair her with somebody, or at least hint that there's something there more than friendship. They've had those opportunities. Same with Spike recently, like with Ember and stuff. They've had these opportunities, but yet they've never taken full advantage. So the question being, if season 9's the last season, will they or will they not? And I've said before and I'll say again, I think they will. Because this has to be addressed. You can't just be doing episodes after episodes after episodes every season or every other season that basically centers around one or both and primarily features or focuses on one or both without basically teasing or acknowledging the fact that, hey, there is something there between these two guys' friendship. I mean, it's either, you gotta, you either gotta get off the pot and either make this official in some way of some sort of fashion, or do something that acknowledges that, yeah, there was something between them, but now they're just friends because, hey, that was a part of life. And that's something that can never be taken away from each other. Again, we don't know. But honestly, But honestly, it's time they either get off the pot and address honestly, like I said, get a fan base, a huge portion of the fan base that still supports this pairing. And there are members of the Rift Cafe that support it. So you got to do something. Something has to be acknowledged. Something has to be done. I mean, heck, one reviewer recently, this past December, used one of the series he does to review this episode, and that's the Cartoon Gentleman. He used the Puppet Show to review this episode, and even one of his puppet characters acknowledged, and somewhat both acknowledged, a shipping taking place here, even though the main puppet character tried to back off of it and say, nope, here's why it's not going to happen, here's what happened. You know, the point is, folks, that going on nearly a decade, and the time is now. The time is now for them to either address this in some shape or form, and I honestly believe that they're going to go. Here's the thing. I know I know that the creative staff behind the show, sometimes makes decisions that is not popular with the fans. I get that. I totally get that. I mean, heck, this season has kind of been 50-50 with the fans. There have been some episodes that have been good, some episodes that have been not so good, and some that have been right in the middle. You know, I mean, heck, this past Saturday, Non-Compete Clause was one of those episodes that was not so good, but to others might be right in the middle. But you get the idea. The point is, you know, the MLP staff is going to make decisions not everybody's going to agree with, and if they make the decision to pair Spike with Rarity very soon, if not in the final season in some shape or form, I know not a lot of fans are going to be. I know there's going to be a ton of fans, if not a lot of fans, that are not going to be happy. But guess what? There's also going to be a lot of fans, long time, been there since the beginning, that will be happy because it's like, finally, took you long enough to do this. I mean, how many shows from Friends, X-Men Evolution? Well, X-Men Evolution's more of a, yeah, it's going to happen. It just takes time to do. But shows like Friends, Who's the Boss? What other shows? Disney, for example, like Kim Possible. You know, what else? Gravity Falls. Not the Gravity Falls, but, well, yeah, Gravity Falls, in a sense. In a sense. Or, what else? Like I said, Kim Possible. Gravity Falls, in a sense. What else? Yeah, Who's the Boss? Friends. Big Bang Theory recently. I mean, come on. How many shows, animated or live action, have not done something similar, and in the end, whether you were a fan of the inevitable pairing or you weren't, that pairing happened, and it became official, and they ran with it, even if they had to wait towards the final season, or if not, final couple of seasons to do it. The point is, again, I know not a lot of fans will be appreciative or supporting if DHX and the creative staff behind the show say, you know what, it's the final season, we've teased this long enough, let's just make Spike and Rarity official as a couple and be done with it, in some shape or form. I know not a lot of people are going to appreciate that, or not a lot of fans are going to like that, but you know what? That majority of the fan base is going to basically be outweighed, if not outnumbered, by the massive majority of the fan base that's been there since day one, that's been wanting to see some kind of resolution to this, yay or nay, that's going to be yaying and cheering and being happy about that moment, if they decide to do it. And again, it's going to be a decision that's going to go back and forth, but it's mostly going to be positive for a lot of the longtime fans. So overall, I just think the time is now. I think overall, looking at the fact that you already are pairing secondary characters like Big Mac and Maud with in romances. Like, you got a second episode, possibly the second part of a trilogy, if you will, with Big Mac and Sugar Belle coming up next week or this Saturday. You recently had Maud Pie get with Mudbriar. So if you're doing that and you're starting to slowly, as I said one time in a video, slowly using that as a testing ground to see what romance would be like for the main cast, then I think honestly, in all honesty, I think season 9 is going to be where that test fully comes into swing, and possibly Spike and Rarity could be the first test subjects to become official out of the main cast. I'm just saying that's an opinion on my. I'm just saying in my own opinion that's something that could happen, and I think it probably will. Because I think honestly, Nicole Dubach has to realize, hey, we've teased this long enough. It's been teased long enough. Let's just make it official. Be done with it. It's the final season. Let's go from there. Because like I said, unless the final season is connected Gen 5, and Gen 5 is like a soft reboot retcon of Friendship is Magic. Unless that happens, then there shouldn't be no reason for Spike and Rarity to become somewhat official as a couple. Because if it's a soft retcon reboot, then I can understand that. Understand the pairing not happening. But you get the idea. So overall, I think the time is now, and recently Cartoon Gentleman talking about it in some way, acknowledging it back in December. I think honestly, if it's still supported by fans today and still acknowledged by fans, then it's something that's got to be addressed sooner or later. And I think anybody listening to this understands that. So let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Sorry if I rambled and repeated myself, and I will talk to you all later.